Welcome to another episode of School on the Air. This morning we're looking at a very new topic, which is called the arithmetic of finance. The arithmetic and the mathematics that has to do with our spendings. That's what we want to look at. Some of the subtopics you are familiar with them, like simple interest and compound interest, and so on and so forth. But this morning and this day we're looking at simple interests, and we know you are. I'm sure you're familiar with the formula for simple interest, and that's what you have on the board. We have interest is equal to principal times rate times time over 100. That is the formula, because the formula is very important in this case. The formula is very essential. So then that's the interest formula. If you have to get any other thing apart from the interest, like the principal, this is the formula to get the principal. You have principal is equal to 100 multiplied by interest all over rate times time. And actually, rate is also, if you have to get the rates, you are given the principal, the time, and the interest. You have to get the rate. The rate is equal to 100 multiplied by interest all over principal times time. Why, if you are given the interest, principal, rates, and you are asked to get the time, the formula to get the time is this: 100 multiplied by interest all over principal times rates. That's the formula. That's very important. You have to master that. So let's take an example on this. The first example says you should find the simple interest on 18,250 naira in 5 years at 3% per annum. So what is going to be your interests if you have 18,250 naira in 5 years? What at 3% per annum, what will be the actual interest you're going to get from that amount? Your principal. That's what we're trying to look for in this question, and that's the request. This is the demand of the question. So let's see how we go about it. How we can go about it. The first thing when you're dealing with this type of problem is to first write out the formula. It's very important. So you write interest is equal to principal times rate times time over 100. And in the question, you realize you have been given the principal. Principal is equal to 18,250, and the rate given in the question is 3%. The time is 5 years. So you write out the formula. The interest equals, this is the principal 18,250 multiplied by 3, which is the rate, and multiplied by 5, which is the time, all over 100. If you multiply what do you have at the numerator? You have 1,218,750 naira all over 100. And when you divide by 100, you have 12,187 naira 50 kobo as the interest. Very simple. I've gotten the interest. The interest is 12,000. The interest on 18,250 naira at the rate of 3% in 5 years is 12,187 naira 50 kobo. That's the interest you have on it. Let's take another example on this. Let's take another example on the second example. This time around, we are asked to get the rates. The question says, at what rate per annum with simple interest of 131 naira 250 naira amount to 147,000 naira in 3 years? What will be the rate? What's the rate at which we will get 147 naira from 131 naira 250 137,000 naira 250 naira will amount to 147,000 naira. So at what rate? So let's write out the formula first. The formula is rate is equal to 100 multiplied by interest all over principal times time, and we have been given all the parameters there in the question. So don't forget that interest is equal to amount minus principal. That's how to get the interest. Amount minus principal gives you the interest. So we have been given the amount. The amount given to us is 147,000, and the principal is 131,250 naira. So definitely the interest on this will be 15,750 naira. And the time is given to us as 3 years. So let's insert the values into the formula. So you have rate is equal to 100 multiplied by 15,750 naira all over 131,250 naira times 3. If you multiply what they have at the numerator, you have 1,575,000 naira. So you have divided by 393 naira, 750 naira. When you divide by this, you have the rate to be equal to 4%. That means the rate at which the interest is charged is 4%. 4% per annum. That's the rate of interest. It's as simple as ABC. Let's go to the next example, the third example. This time around, we are to calculate the length of time. In other words, we are calculating time for 800,000 naira to earn 160,000 naira if invested at 10% per annum. So what length of time will that take us to get that? Let's see. Let's write out the formula. No, the formula, you have time is equal to 100 times interest all over principal times time. So interest is equal to 160,000. The rate is 10%, and the principal is 800,000 naira. So let's see, when we start into the formula, time is equal to 100 multiplied by the interest, which is 160,000 naira, all over 800,000 naira multiplied by 10. So if you divide and simplify that, you have time is equal to 16 naira over 8 naira. So naira will cancel naira, so you have 16 over 8, which gives you 2 years. That means within 2 years, 160,000 will amount to 800,000 within 2 years at the rate at which we are given in the question. So the time is 2 years to get that amount. So let's go to the next example. Example 4. If the simple interest on a sum of money invested at 2.5% per annum for 6 years is 31,800 naira, we have to find the amount. I told you earlier on that the formula for amount is equal to principal plus interest. That's the formula for amount. Amount is equal to principal plus interest. You have to take note of that. So here in this question, we are requested to get the amount. So that means for us to get the amount, you must have the principal and you must have the interest. So let's look at when you look at the question, you are given the principal. So you have to get the other thing, that is the interest, before you can get the amount. So let's see how we can go about this now. Now, this is the formula. Amount is equal to principal plus interest. So take note of that. And the principal is equal to 100 times interest all over rate times time. That's the formula for principal. Now, here we have the interest to be 31,800. The rate is 2.5%, and the time is 6 years. So let's insert all the parameters we have inside the formula. If we insert the parameters, so we have 100 multiplied by 31,800 divide then all over 5 over 2. You know, 5 over 2 is equivalent to 2.5. So multiply by 6. So you have 3,180,000 divided by, because you know 2 can go in 6, so you have 2 here 1, 2 in 6, you have 3. That's why you have 3 on top of that. So you have 3,180,000 divided by 15, because 5 multiplied by 3 gives you 15. So now when you divide 3,180,000 by 15, you have 212,000 naira as the answer to that, and that is your principal. So the principal is 212,000 naira. So I told you earlier on that amount is equal to principal plus interest. So we already have the interest already before. So this is the principal. Principal 212,000 naira plus the interest, which is 31,800. The amount will be equal to 243 naira. 243,800 naira. That will be the amount. That's the amount. As simple as ABC. Let's see the next thing. So we have we have looked at interest. I've talked about interest. I said interest is equal to principal times rate times time over 100, and that principal is equal to 100 times interest all over rate times time. I also said that rate is equal to 100 multiplied by interest all over principal times time. So I said time is equal to 100 multiplied by interest all over principal times rate. And I took you to an example on that. I gave the first example you have on the board to interest on 18,250 naira in 5 years at 3%, and we slot in all the values. You have the interest. This is a principal 18,250. Then multiply by the rates, which is 3, and multiply by 5, which is a year, and divided by 100. So at the end of the day, we have 1,280,750 naira divided by 100, and we have our interest to be 12,187 naira 50 kobo for the first example. In the second example, I gave you we were asked to find the rates per annum. At what rate per annum is this simple interest 131,250 naira amount to 147 naira in 3 years? And we went through the solution. You have the interest 100 multiplied by interest all over principal times time, which is the formula for the rate. And don't forget that I said interest is equal to amount minus principal, and the amount is 147,000, while the principal is 131,250. We find the difference. We got 15,750 naira, and at the end of the day, we also given the time in the question, and we slot in all the values we have in the formula. We have 100 times 15,750 all over 131,250 multiplied by 3. So we got this. We got 1,575,300 divided by 393,750 naira, and we got the rate to be 4%. From this formula, when you divide this by this, you get 4%. That's what I said earlier on. In the third example, you have to find the length of time for 800,000 to amount to earn 160,000 if invested at 10% per annum. And we also went through the example which said time is 100 times interest over principal times rate, and that the interest given to us is 160,000 naira. The rate is 10%, and the principal is 800,000. And we slot in the values into the formula. We have 100 multiplied by 160,000 all over 800,000 multiplied by 10. So at the end of the day, we actually simplified it. So at the end of the simplification, we had 16 naira over 8 naira, and I told you that naira cancelled naira, and at the end of the day, we got 2 years as a length of time. So the length of time we got is 2 years. So in the last example, which is example 4, we are asked to find the amount, and I told you to get the amount, the amount is equal to principal plus interest. Don't forget. And we inserted the values given in the question. After writing out the formula amount equals principal plus interest, and we said principal is equal to 100 multiplied by interest all over rate times time, and we write out our values. The interest 31,800 naira, rate 2.5%, and time 6 years. I will slot in the values into the formula. So after slotting the value, you have 100 multiplied by 31,800 divided by 5 over 2. I told you 2.5 is same thing as 5 over 2. If you change it to improper fraction, from mixed fraction to improper fraction, multiply by 6. And when you divide, 2 can go in 6. So 2 in 2, that's 1. In 6, you have 3. That's why you have 3 on top of the 6 you have there. And I also said that after multiplying the numerator, we have 3,180,000 naira, and divided by the denominator, which is 5 multiplied by 3, which is 15. So by the time you divide 3,180,000 by 15, you will have 212,000 naira as a principal. So now, don't forget, we are looking for the amount. As I said earlier on, amount is equal to principal plus interest. So we've gotten the principal now to be 212,000, and we already have the interest, which is 31,800 naira. So if you add the two together, you have 243 naira, 243,000 naira, 243,800 naira. That's what we have there. So now I have some questions for you to attempt. Now you have questions on what you have just been taught, and the first question is on the interest, simple interest. You have to calculate the simple interest. Calculate the simple interest on 192,000 naira for 3 years at 6% per annum. So what interest are you going to get from that? From 192,000 in 3 years at 6% per annum. That's the first question. The second question is you have to calculate the principal. Calculate the principal, which amount to 146,450 naira simple interest in 4 years at 4% per annum. So what will be the principal? What is that principal? That principal that will amount to this at the end of 4 years at 4% per annum. That's what you have to get. So the next question you are told if the simple interest on 51,250 naira in 4 years is 7,175 naira, you have to find the rate percent per annum. This question is demanding for the rates, so you try to practice you write out the formula for it and try to get all the necessary parameters and insert them into your formula and get the rate at which 51,250 naira we amount to in 4 years. We amount to we gain an interest of 7,175 naira in 4 years. 1,080,000 naira at 8.5% per annum. How much interest has he earned, and what is the total amount in her account after 4 years? There are two questions in this, so you have to be very careful. The first one says how much interest has he earned. That's what the amount of interest he has at the end of 4 years. That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question says what is the total amount in her account? What will he have? What is going to be in his account at the end of 4 years? So it's very important. So I want you to try to go through this question. As you get answers to your question, you can send it to the number you see on the screen. So we'll get back to you. I hope you've enjoyed this class. Have a very nice day.